All right. This is as good a time as any to begin. So, thank you once again for joining the webinar today. Our webinar today is going to be all about how to drive quality admissions uh, for your school. Just a moment, please. I hope our screen is visible. I'm really delighted to introduce you to Deepak Hariharan. Deepak is a seasoned business leader, he's an ex entrepreneur, and he's a TEDx speaker with over 15 years of diverse experience spanning education, health tech, food delivery, mentorship, real estate, and social infrastructure. Deepak currently serves as business head at Lead Group, and in this role, he is driving our mission to bring excellent education to every child in India. He's previously held leadership roles at Tata 1MG and Zomato, and he's played a very important role in the growth of these companies. Today, he brings this expertise to all of us to our webinar to help schools grow. Deepak's entrepreneurial spirit is also reflected in his tenure as the founder and CEO of Mentor Yes, a career and education mentorship platform. An inspiring speaker and mentor, Deepak has delivered many TEDx talks, and served as an advisor to Ashoka University's entrepreneurship and accelerator programs, along with several other youth focused initiatives. Please join me in welcoming Deepak to share his invaluable insights on how to boost school admissions today. Deepak, welcome. Thank you so much for being our speaker, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Shalini, for the introduction and such kind words. Uh, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session. So, over the course of the next 45 minutes, hopefully, we'll be able to add value to you in terms of how you plan for admissions and growth of your school. So, really looking forward to that. So, as we start off, just a quick zoomed out look at how the entire school ecosystem is today. Shalini, can we move to the next slide, please? Uh, Shalini, can we move forward?
Sorry, I am just having some trouble with my laptop. Give me a moment, please.
No worries. All right. So, currently, India has over 5 lakh private schools, right? And these are schools that are all over the place, across major cities, across small towns, villages, and and have been growing drastically. So if I were to look at it from a parent standpoint, I think parents are really spoiled for choice right now. Every parent has multiple schools that are approaching them, pitching to them for the futures of their children. So in this context, I think something that's very pertinent and important for us to take a look at is how do we really stand out in such intense competition? Next slide, please. So at this point of time, you would see that there is so much competition and there's too much choice that parents have. And when there is so much crowding that happens, and there is a lot of marketing that is happening by each of the schools, be it hoardings, be it social media, be it flyers, be it door to door, multiple events that schools are doing, it is very easy for a good school to actually get lost in the crowd, right? Everything starts looking similar, everything starts looking like marketing, and identifying the hidden gems, the best of schools, is actually a challenge for parents. I myself have a young child who started school about a year and a half back, and it's actually a very difficult journey to find what is the right school. You ask 20, 30 different people, try to get points of view, and it's not easy to move forward, right? So, over the course of today's conversation, we'll try and see how we can cut this clutter and create clear value for our parents. Next, please. So, I think one question that I'd want to ask is when there are so many options, what makes your school special? And once you identify what is special about your school, how does a parent actually identify what is special about the school? So on this, I just want to go to the next slide and want to seek your thoughts in terms of what do parents really want from schools. So from your experience, would be very happy if you can please share your thoughts on chat and we can take up a few points there. Minil, good to see a large audience from diverse locations. I can see schools coming from Punjab, from Uttar Pradesh, from Rajasthan, from Telangana, from Karnataka, from East, all over the place. Fabulous. All right, so we start getting some of the responses. So, learning outcomes of students, yes. More of academic oriented and extracurricular activities, yes. All round development, well spoken in English, safety and security of child, that's paramount. NEP ready school, infrastructure, quality teachers, good environment, culture, student growth, holistic approach, personal connection with the students, personality development, confidence in students, absolutely. Right? I think thank you so much. And there are more responses coming in, but I think what we capture from here fundamentally is that there is a lot of high expectation that we see from parents, right? And we have when we take a look at the thousands of schools that we have worked with, and we have worked with schools across fee ranges, across sizes, across different urban rural contexts, and across different kinds of infrastructure. But there are some 4 5 things that we really see very common that parents really want. And can you move to the next slide, please? So one thing that parents really want is the assurance that the child is studying in the right school, right? The best school that they can afford or that's in the vicinity. Second, very importantly, a great future for the child. So, as many people mentioned, in terms of building confidence, in terms of extracurricular activities, exposing the child to different avenues to find his or her calling and to grow in that. Thirdly, more recently, I think there's a very important trend and a very positive trend that parents are recognizing that the board exam results are not enough. Children, just topping the exam doesn't guarantee success in life, but actually children have to be transformed into, as someone mentioned, the word confidence, confident individuals with real world skills. That's where the extracurricular activities, the co-curricular learning, all the points that we mentioned comes in. Fundamentally, if I were to look at it, parents have very, very high expectations of schools now. Everybody wants to send their child to a school. Can you go to next slide? So everybody wants to send their child to a school, and then it's the school's responsibility to ensure that the child is fully polished and a fabulous young citizen of the country. Right? Parents somewhere see their responsibility as ensuring the child is well groomed in the right uniform, has packed lunch, and reaches the school, and then the school takes over. And I think the evolution the with exposure to social media, with exposure to different contexts, I think parents have also started having very different expectations and very high expectations of schools. And we see a lot of cases where parents come across and question the school, saying, "Why are we teaching it this way and not that way?" We see that quite often. So let's take a look at how these expectations have evolved first.
So, Deepak, I think we at this point would just like to run a quick poll
Sure.
to see where our audience is at.
Absolutely.
Rohit, would you do the honors? Okay, so just to get a quick sense of where all our participants are in terms of working towards driving admissions in their schools. We want to know how do you go about this? Do you start 1 month before or 3 months before or six, or is it an all year process for you? Clearly, most schools are indicating it's an all year process. 38%, 46%, 48%, 50%, and now greater than 50% of all our participants are clearly voting that brand building, school admissions, etc., is an all-year process.
Wonderful. So I think we have a large number of responses now. Perfect. So I think the responses actually show, is there a way the results can be shown to the audience? All right, I'll quickly verbalize it. So currently out of the responses we got, 46% of the people have responded that it's an all-year process, 33% that admission starts 3 months before the new year starts, 13% that it's 1 month, and 8% that it's 6 months before. Wonderful. So I think if I were to glean from this, right, and I think very rightly so, thanks to the learned audience here who actually recognizes that admissions is not marketing. Admissions is when we actually deliver clear value to the student, and it is not about a marketing blitz that works and suddenly works wonders. So, in terms of, if I were to look at this point again, in terms of revisit this point, in terms of what are parent expectations, right? One expectation that clearly comes across, can we move forward on the animations, Shalini? So one expectation that comes up clearly is that uh, with the modern era coming in, with smartphones coming in, especially in the last 10 years, with the kind of exposure to media and social media that's coming in, I think the attention span of a lot of our students has actually gone down. And students look for more rewarding, more engaging ways of actually learning. And the conventional blackboard and chalk textbook doesn't really work. Second, if I look at some of the best evolved practices globally in terms of how learning happens today, learning is a lot more personalized, ensuring that every child is getting the learning at the right level for them. And a lot of artificial intelligence has come into play to enable this. The world has also moved into not just academic topping is not enough. It is world ready skills being a lot more holistic, integrated, and engaging, as NEP says, and using the technology adequately to on teaching, learning, assessment. All three of these is particularly important. So the expectations have started becoming a lot larger, and in line with that, and in line with what we asked at the poll, right? Getting admissions is not a seasonal activity. Building admissions and building that credibility is something about creating value first. And most schools, unfortunately, today invest heavily in marketing in the peak admission season, right? All of us see that flooding of hoardings. We see half the hoardings in the city are taken up by schools in that period. We see pamphlets with the morning paper. There are a lot of places where actually the front page ad of a newspaper is one big school. Uh, all of it happens. And when there is so much that is happening at the same time, nothing grabs the attention. Everybody's competing for attention at the same time. But the secret sauce is that most of the schools that do well are actually topping the race even before any of this marketing starts. They are winning because of their brand image and because of the way their word of mouth works. And while it's a all year activity, it's never too late to start. So whether you are a school who starts in April or a school that starts in June, July, now is the right time to start in terms of how we start building towards this. Can you move forward, please? All right. So, what are the secret ingredients to growing school admissions? Now, before we get into this and get into a more detailed section around this, happy to take if there are any questions that have come up on chat. Or if you have any questions, we can feel free to please add here. I'll take a quick pause, address a couple of questions. I'll take 2 or 3 questions and then move forward with this session.
No questions yet, Deepak.
Wonderful. Then let's not hold it back. Let's move forward. All right. So, in terms of, let's get into the secret ingredients. And these secret ingredients are actually as simple as keeping them on one hand, 5 fingers. It's very easy to remember. So, number one, the thumb is in terms of planning and owning how we run admissions in our school. Right? Being very, very specific about what we want to achieve. The best success stories are always when there's a clearly defined goal. You work backward from the goal in terms of what we need to do to make it happen. And that's the same formula that works for admissions. Right? Having a clear planning and ownership of how to deliver on that. We'll elaborate on each of these points in a little bit. Second is to have the distinct value that really stands out, which is for parents and students both. Your school has to be unique, has to be doing something differently. The rest of it is marketing gets your word to the audience, but what you say is very important. Thirdly, as I said, a marketing blitz just in the peak period doesn't work. You have to be top of mind of the parent whenever they think about admissions or whenever they think about schooling. Your school name should be top of mind saying, hey, this is where I want my child to go to when my child is 3 years, 4 years, 5 years old, eligible for school, depending on what we offer. Fourthly, once a parent has decided, shortlisted your school, and almost always the parent will visit the school along with the child just to see how the school is and create a first-hand opinion and take that difficult call in terms of which school the child should join. So how do we create an unforgettable experience when the parent and child walk in for the first time? That's critical for success. And then lastly, how do we constantly engage with the with potential future parents to ensure we're able to convert? So 5 point formula. Let's get into each of these. So number one is in terms of build and own the plan that we talked about very specifically, right? And this is something that as school owners, we should do once in 6 months, once in a year, in terms of actually just taking a zoomed out look and saying where do we really want to be 5 years from now, right? I'm assuming, let's say, if I'm running a typical school of 400 to 500 students, do I want to be running a school of 2000 students? Do I have the space, the capacity to add there, or do I need to open one more branch there? Or maybe if I'm doing successfully as a school, do I open four more branches and make it a chain of schools? Where do we want to be really 5 years from now? Right. So I think I'll just take a quick pause for if some of you can share on chat saying where do you aspire to be in the next few years? That'll really give us a lot more context for taking this conversation forward. Yes, sir. Chaya ma'am has shared that at present we are 1250, and I'm sure you're looking to scale up from there. Premada ma'am has shared that you want to be 1,000 students. And I'm sure a lot of us have our targets in terms of where we want to be. Right. Now, ma'am has shared that we want to grow from 1250 to 2,000 students. Manoj ji has shared that we want a significant improvement in quality education. Vanessa ma'am has shared that we want to have multiple branches. Perfect. So I think all of us have very clear aspirations in terms of how we want to grow, right? And Amrita ma'am has shared about growing admissions for the after-school tuitions as well. So fabulous to see that. All right. So I think one very important thing as we look forward for the next 5 years is to also look back at the last 5 years and what are the learnings that we have from them. Where were we 5 years back and where are we right now? What has happened in this interim? Specifically, if you look at once in lifetime events like COVID, what has been the impact of it? There are schools that have had drastic increase after COVID. There are some who have flattened or lost students also after COVID. And what is the kind of parent reaction that we are seeing year on year? Are we seeing growth? Are we seeing degrowth? And what are we doing differently to achieve our 5 year plan? I think very important that we spend an hour. Maybe what I suggest over the course of this week, probably you can just sit down with a piece of paper, sit with sit with your colleagues, sit with your board members, sit with your co-promoters, and plan this out. Look at the last 5 years. What are learnings from admission standpoint? For next 5 years, if you had to go ahead, what is that we'll do differently? And as we look at this 5 year goal, also important that we go ahead and break this down to smaller goals. Where do we want to be for the academic year 25-26? Where do you want to be for 25, for 26, 27, 27, 28? You break that goal down by that. And then once you define what you want to be in 25, 26, what is it that we need to do to actually go ahead and achieve it? Right. And again, a month on month plan. Now, some of us might be starting our next cycle in April, some of us starting in June. So we have a 3 month window or a 5 month window, depending on which part of the country we are from and which board we are from. So to go ahead and define these actions specifically as per the goal. And lastly, all this is a plan. To get this plan into action, we need to have dedicated focus and energy going behind this. So if we can have next animation, we need to also assign a clear owner for the plan. So a lot of us get busy in different things. So important that we have one single person who owns this entire admissions program for our schools. And that actually becomes a big differentiator in terms of success or not so much success. So for an admission coordinator, we can move to the next slide. I think some basic traits that we would look at. Now, an admission coordinator need not be somebody that you hire externally. In fact, we highly recommend that it should be somebody internal who understands the school well. It could be an academic coordinator. It could be a senior teacher, could be the principal, or could be the school owner himself or herself. Now, specifically, this person is somebody who is actually going to be front facing with parents a lot. So very important that we have the right communication skills, the presentation skills, and understanding of parents, understanding of other schools, understanding of what do parents really want, right? And someone who's also willing to learn, be proactive in planning, and has some experience in school administration would be very useful. The role of this person would be on day to day, multiple activities need to happen towards admissions, ensuring that all of them stay on track. Working closely with the principal and the school owner in terms of multiple initiatives, planning, executing of marketing of brand building, especially in the last 3 4 months. And overall, there'd be a whole host of communications that we and engagements that we want to plan out. Now, this could be on the back of social media. This could be WhatsApp messages that we pass to us to a prospective parent database. This could be engagements with our existing parents so they reach out to their communities. Multiple ways in which it can happen. And the way we would look at our admissions program actually running is to ensure that we actually have a monthly plan. As I said, from now to the AY 25-26, what we want to achieve, a monthly roadmap on how to achieve it, and tracking against that, breaking it to weekly goals, and a very, very specific plan so that you, as a school owner or a principal, are able to actively track and ensure that we are on track for admissions for the year. Right? Now, when we move towards this, I think the first step, I think the second step that we talked about was with regard to creating value that really stands out. Before any marketing that comes out, are you different from other schools? If yes, how? And it's very, very important that we articulate this very clearly. Now, different ways in which it can happen. So one could be, as I said, I mean, in terms of demonstrating that we are a new age cutting edge school. In terms of if we were to look at the new trends, and almost all parents are getting more and more aware of NEP and NCF, and the fact that we are getting out of rote learning, getting out of book-based learning, and starting to involve a lot more of our senses into making it far more engaging. Because a lot of students learn differently, different things. Some of us are visual learners, which means we learn better by seeing, reading. Some of us are auditory learners, which means we learn better by listening to stories, poems, multiple other classes, and how teachers teach. And many of us are also kinesthetic learners, which means we really learn when we do something with our own two hands, right? In terms of if it's fractions, there are multiple fraction kits that are there, number systems. There are many, many different ways in which learning can be made a lot more experiential and where the child completely understands what is being taught versus memorization. And this actually holds the child in good stead as they go forward across the grades and becomes a big differentiator in terms of their ability to score and also in terms of real world skills. So I think differentiation in terms of ways of learning is one angle we can take a look at. The other thing we can take a look at is from personalized learning. And if we move to the next slide, please. So I think many of us would have our students in some sort of a distribution like we see on the right, right? I mean, if we were to look at, let's say, both 10 results, we would have some 10, 15, 20% of our students being in the 90s at best. Some number in the 80s, there'll be a lot of people in the middling and some who are not doing so well. All our classrooms always have different proficiency of students. Some of them who are higher proficiency, fast learners, some of them who are middle proficiency, and some of them who are slower. Are we able to engage meaningfully with all the students and give each child the opportunity to succeed? If I were to zoom out and take a look, right, every parent actually pays the same fees. Every parent has high aspirations and hopes for their child, but only a few of the students actually succeed and do well. Because typically as schools, all of us end up teaching for the averages. So can we do something different to actually personalize learning? Because at the end of the day, if you have, let's say in a particular grade, if you have 40 students, you would want all 40 parents to be very, very happy with the school and be your evangelists and your propagators of your word to the larger audience. Right? Now, if you have only the high performer parents being very happy and some of them not being happy, that's a challenge for us. So I think increasingly we see that getting more personalized in terms of learning, ensuring that we are able to engage actively with the high performers, as NEP and NCF recommend, doing teacher-led, group-led, individual-led activities within the classroom, and also giving special attention and remedials for some of slower learners, actually ensures that every single parent is happy. And that is fabulous in terms of how your school can reach to the larger community. So personalized learning is something very important. And there are multiple other things that we can take a look at, but these are two suggestions in terms of something that you can do to actually create distinct value for your school. Now, Thirdly, creating brand. Building the right brand for your school starts with the value. As we already talked about, creating that value differentiation in terms of what is the pedagogy, getting the right life skills for your children, holistic learning, using modern practices, technology in the classroom, all of that stands out because it's very, very visual and visible to parents when a school adopts technology or doesn't adopt technology. And I think that's the call of the hour now. Second is during the peak marketing months, peak admission months is when most schools are doing these hoardings, door-to-door flyers, all of it. I think what's important is that our brand and our message should actually reach parents even before the admission season starts, right? WhatsApp is a fabulous channel. If you have your existing, I'm sure most of us have our existing parents on WhatsApp groups and communities with us. We need to use that actively. Similarly, using our parent and teacher networks to get the word out. And how do we create a pan-year activity and engagement with the community is something very important, right? Which is what leads to the recall. The all-year parent engagement plan is something very, very important for us. And this translates to a engagement calendar, multiple things we can do. As summer break comes, summer camps is a fabulous way to engage. And student-led conferences where you actually showcase your students' talent to the outside world, having various contests, debates, quizzes, multiple ways. All of these, if I were to look at it, are means by which we're engaging with the larger community, not just with our students. And if you can go to next slide, please. So all this is, see, a lot of times what happens is we create a lot of goodness. We do some fabulous work, which our students love truly, and our students' parents love truly. But to get the word out to the larger community, which is very, very important and a foundational element for admissions, it's very important that we are engaging with the external community also around the year. So let's say right now we're sitting in January of 2025 and we are practically in the first week of the year. So it's a fabulous time for us to actually go ahead and plan our event calendar for the whole year. And I'm not looking at just the admission season of 25-26, but also the next admission season and the many years to come. This is a brand building, not an admission activity. This leads to admissions. So some things we can explore. I mean, one is, let's say, is there a way we can demonstrate our student talent to the outside world? It could be in terms of a science fair. It could be in terms of students teaching certain topics. And how do we go out and engage with not just our current parents, but also invite our parents and our students to call their friends and family over? Those are certain ways in which we can engage meaningfully. So can we stay in the previous slide? In terms of summer camp is a fabulous way to do it again, which you can invite students or youngsters from the communities around you, not just your own students. Similarly, in terms of sports meets that can be kept open for everyone. Similarly, there can be student movements where, let's say, students take up some social topics and do a movement visibly in main marketplaces or residential areas and carry up an important social message to the audience. Any kind of student showcase events, promotions, a whole host of things. Now, what you see is that it's not all cluttered and crowded in just the admission season. This is something we keep doing around the year to ensure that we stay top of mind, to ensure that the communities see that the school is doing something different. And when it comes to a decision point, your school's name is top of mind. That makes all the difference here. So therefore, critical to build brand all year. And as we do this, if we can move to the next slide, very important that when we're creating all these events, like some of the events that you can see or the photos on the right, very important that we also capture the parent feedback in the form of testimonial videos and photos and scripts. Also, in terms of student videos of how they're engaging here, a lot of this is content that we can use around the year in multiple ways in terms of our social media channels. Because one good practice in social media is to keep posting every week or twice a week. That's something very, very engaging and relevant to the community, and also for your own brand building. So you'd be doing a lot of these good work in bursts. I mean, in a year, you might end up doing 12 activities, one interesting activity a month. Ensure that we are capturing most of it and also capitalizing on it from there. Right? So that's about brand building. Now, with all this brand building, what you're doing is you're creating this interest in the parent for some of these events, be it for to inquire about a summer camp, to see something that's happening in your school, to attend an event. A prospective parent might walk in. Now, when a parent walks in, the first impression is a lasting impression in terms of how the school looks and also what what is the kind of engagement that the parent has in the school is very important. So one thing we should have as a defined program is school tours. When a prospective parent comes in, what do you want that parent to see in the school? What is the circuit? What is the path that the parent takes? What sequence does he or she see your classrooms, your labs, your libraries, your other facilities? Right? Can we actually invite parents in specific slots where they can come in and be a guest audience in a classroom and see how we are teaching? How do we showcase all the infrastructure of the school? In case you have some smart classrooms, you have some interactive panels, televisions, audiovisual learning systems, all of it. And very importantly, and something which is very, very exciting, and I've seen this work in multiple places, is when you actually have the students running a classroom for parents. So if you are a parent of somebody who's considering a grade one admission, and imagine you walk into a classroom where you actually have a 6-year-old student teaching a certain concept. It could be something like number systems, it could be tables, or it could be maybe rhymes, maybe water cycle, it could be various things. Imagine an experience of seeing a 6-year-old child confidently explain something in the class. That is a memorable experience, right? I mean, there are certain things that you never forget in life. We'd want to create that out of this, right? So how do you ensure that once a parent has visited your school is so etched in memory that the parent doesn't want to consider anything else? That's something we have to think of and plan for your school, right?
And
We have a question there. So Shalini, over to
yeah,
you.
yeah. So we just want to check with our audience now. We're sort of a little bit more than halfway through the webinar, just to get a sense, how do you engage your parents? And we have a poll coming up on the screen. So let us know, how do you go about it? Do you run contests? Do you do school tours? Do you follow the VAK or the visual auditory kinesthetic experience method, or do you do everything? We really want to know, how is it that you are engaging parents? So please go ahead and vote. Actually, an overwhelming 70 to 80% of our participants are saying they do all of these, which I don't think was a surprise.
Fabulous. I think most of the schools are already following all of this, which is also to be expected, because I think a lot of the schools that we see on this conversation, right, and also from what we're seeing on the chats, are very, very progressive. Right, and our schools who have actually shown the outcomes and also are aspiring to become leaders in their local communities. So absolutely fabulous to see a majority of the schools. I think the final numbers are showing 71% of the schools are actually following all of these elements. Fabulous to see that. All right. And very importantly, when you have your parents visiting, also remember to maintain a clean log, ensure that you maintain a log sheet of everybody, capture the feedback in some format, and keep building this into a parent database. Because down the line, you would want to keep reaching out to them for multiple things. You would want to send them a WhatsApp whenever you have created something very interesting has happened in your school. You want to share some news. Similarly, you would want to invite them to certain events in school. So we need to import. It's very important to also build a database, because once a parent walks in, they may not be signing up at the same point. They may choose to sign up after a couple of months. So very important, that leads into our fifth point, which is in terms of engage, engage, engage. Right. So once you have initial interest from parents, right? Two, three things that we should do as part of it. One is, any future event that you have, please invite them across. The more they get exposure to you, or the more they see the spread of repertoire of things that we do, the more engaged they are. Second, thing that has really worked in most schools is in terms of running a parent referral program, because your parents, the friends of your parents are future parents, right, and are the best audiences for you. And because if somebody who's already your parent goes and tells someone, then they don't need to ask anybody else for a testimonial. They know that the school is genuinely good. And thirdly, running a teacher referral program, because I think teachers earn a lot of respect. So when teachers reach out to their communities, their neighbors, their friends and family, that's something that really helps out. Yeah. All right. So just summing it up, number one, planning and owning the plan completely, having a defined owner. Second, creating very clear value that really stands out. Third, building brand is a all-year activity, not just in the admission season. Fourth, when a parent walks in, let's deliver the great experience for the parent and something that's absolutely memorable. And fifth, constantly let's keep engaging and adding value to our parents. Right. So on this point, I think if there are any questions, happy to take it there before we move forward. Or I could see some questions coming in from a couple of people with regard to how do we market in rural areas, right? And so WhatsApp and school tours are only possible. All right. So I think if I were to look at a rural area, I think the marketing is not very different. Right. I think one thing that also becomes important is, of course, proximity in terms of what is the travel arrangements that are available. So some of those points also come in and are important. But what I figured is if a school is good, parents work all that out. So if you're in a rural area, it doesn't matter whether you're in a rural area or an urban area. I think today in today's connected world, everybody has smartphone, everybody has exposure to YouTube, everybody has exposure to various things on social media. And given that context, I think important that we also go ahead and whatever we do well and we capture it well and it's in a way that can be shared. Now, because a lot of cases in rural area, especially, you will not have parents casually walking in. Right? It's always a planned visit that might happen to your school, or especially if you are in a slightly low density area, you might actually have parents who might come in from a neighboring village, coming from 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers away. So they would come in with a very purposeful visit. Right? So creating that strong reason to visit is very, very important. So I think one important thing to look at that is what is that compelling reason why a person should really come. Now, one thing that we have seen work very well in some of these markets is to create something like a proficiency test or a scholarship test kind of a engagement. Now, what this entails is basically when you're testing a student on certain skills. Let's say if it is for grade 3, then you'll be able to test the child on knowledge of English or some basics of mathematics, etc. And we can use a standardized questionnaire and also do it as there's an assessment test which helps you understand where the child lies today vis-a-vis peers. And also you can follow it up with an active counseling session for the parent, saying this is how the child is doing. These are 3, 4 things the child is doing beautifully. These are 3, 4 things the child needs to work on. And this is how you work upon it. Right. So now what you're creating is you're creating tremendous value for the parent, saying, hey, if you come here, you understand how we can actually help your child further his or her academic journey. And by virtue of doing that, you're also creating value for yourself because you are now being seen as an academic expert who's helping the child do well in a short span. So very simple. For example, when you look at, let's say, if it is a pre-primary child, sometimes getting the pronunciation is a big challenge for a lot of children in terms of pronouncing words the right way. So there are certain standard techniques in phonics. So for example, you split a word into 2 parts, 3 parts, and it immediately for a child it becomes very easy to say. So if you say a word like amazing, now someone might say amazing. People might have different ways of pronouncing it. But if you say amazing, right, and once you do it with certain action, it's something that really sticks somehow in the mind, and children are able to get it right in that one go, and after that they never get it wrong. And there are many small techniques that you can showcase that when the parent is actually able to see an immediate impact, that become memorable. So even if you're in a rural area or an urban area, creating that impact is very, very important. Let me just take a look if there are any other questions that have come in. All right. So there was a question saying, how do we convince management to stick to ethics and value to create brand value? So I'm not naming the person who asked this question, but I think this is a little tricky one. I think we need to ensure work with the management in terms of how do you communicate value and showcase value the right way without falsifying anything. So when you stick to ethics, I think I will not be able to comment without specific context on this. So I'm not getting very deep on this answer here. But fundamentally, it comes down to, marketing always has its a little bit of polish in terms of how you say things, but you have to say the right thing, which is actually being delivered. If you make a promise which we will not be able to deliver down the line, then you might get a student for a year, but you get a bad reputation for lifetime. And then eventually that comes back to haunt the school. So I think sticking to ethics, being honest with a little bit of marketing is fine, but I think you have to stay integral to what you are really offering in the school. All right, there was a question from Nazir sir in terms of what support lead provides for marketing. So Nazir sir, I'll just be addressing that in a few minutes. We'll come to that. So I think Neelam ma'am highlighted that a lot of parents actually even avoid the PTM. Yes, that's right. So because it depends on the way we engage with the parent and if they are seeing real value in it. And there are many ways in which we can make PTMs a lot more engaging. And one is if we are able to give them a lot more personalized context about child. Very often what happens in PTMs is that we end up talking marks, which is already available in the report card. But what is important to also capture is how is the child learning? What are the 3, 4 things the child is doing well and what is the child not doing well? And I think that comes from certain best practice in terms of actually maintaining a log or maintaining something about children from day one. Constantly keeping notes in terms of what happened in the class, how did the child react, doing more frequent PTMs, and giving very, very contextual information is important for effective PTM. There's some more questions about rural area which we addressed here. There was a question that came in which is about fee structures and freebies like transport, concession, etc. So I think one element to look at is I think fees is something which I think if I were to zoom out and take a look, all of us hear of a lot of stories where parents go through a lot of hardship to ensure the child gets the right education. But most of the stories that you hear are, pardon me, got a bad throat. Most of the stories that we hear are of cases where someone is doing it for an undergraduate institute, for someone to get into an IIT or an NIT, where parents go through a lot of hardship to ensure the child makes it through. And for that, people are happy to spare any kind of an expense to make it happen because they see the differentiation when you look at it at a college level. Unfortunately, at a school level, many of us are not able to differentiate how our school is different from others. And therefore, a parent also doesn't place a premium for studying in your school versus some other school. Right. So I think when we talk about fee structure, if you are able to show the right value and you're not off by too much as compared to others in the market, parents are willing to pay a premium as long as they see something which is very, very strong and visible differentiation. It's a differentiation not in terms of what you say you're doing, but in terms of what you show you're doing. Right, so I think there are questions that came in saying ki freebies like transport, concession, etc. I think all this comes in if you are able to show the right value, then within reasonable limits, you'll be able to command the right premium. But if we are not able to show the value, then discounting game is what something a lot of schools get into. Okay, so I think there are a few more questions, but probably what we'll do is I think just in the interest of time, since we're almost out, probably what we'll do is we'll go ahead and complete the rest of this conversation. I think there were some questions that came in also which are getting addressed in the next few slides. So we'll complete that, and towards the end, we'll take more questions. All right. So I think one of the important points is how do we transform ourselves into someone who's visibly the best option for parents in your locality? That is the biggest delta here. So when we talked of the 5 points, apart from the planning and owning, the very important starting point was saying, how do you create the distinct value? So let's go a little deeper into that. Next, please. So a few things that we do at Lead School, and just sharing some ideas, some of these things you could do, or if you want to partner with us, we can help you engage in this as well. The thing that really stands out in with our parents and with our schools is in terms of when you actually have an integrated learning program and especially multimodal learning. This is something which is very, very visible to a parent, even if the parent is uneducated, but they see that the learning is happening in some different system. A parent may not understand Archimedes' principle or Pythagoras theorem, doesn't matter. But as long as they see that the child is learning something differently and the child is growing more confident, more vocal, that is a tremendous satisfaction for the parent. Right. So I think if I were to look at it from an integrated learning or a multimodal learning perspective, number one, the book quality has to be fabulous. The curriculum has to be fabulously designed. Second, learning is happening by engaging all the senses. So one key element here is the audiovisual learning that happens through television, smart panels, etc. within the classroom. and ensuring that it is not a gimmick. Now, a lot of schools we have seen where once in a week they would take them to one classroom. It's a AV session that happens where we run one documentary and we say we are a smart school. That, in my mind, is not a definition of a smart school. A smart school is someone who consistently runs audiovisual and multimodal learning in every period for every subject around there. It is not a gimmick, it is actually a learning program. And some of this is also augmented by kinesthetic learning in terms of student activity kit and multiple other ways to make it happen. Right. So the multimodal learning, great curriculum, coupled with audiovisual learning, coupled with experiential learning is something that really adds value. This is one direction we can explore. Second, can you move forward? Is in terms of what do you teach is also very important. Are you cutting edge? Are you bringing the best of the latest learning programs? Are you teaching coding? Are you teaching AI? These are all, coding is not about the code blocks anymore. Coding is about the way of thinking. It is about a learning and an algorithmic way of thinking, which is fabulous in life. Are you able to continue the learning that happens in the classroom back at home? At home and in the classroom, for example, if somebody has taught the water cycle in a certain manner, are you able to visualize and learn it the same way back at home? Is very important. And especially when you are able to have a connected learning back at home, parents also see that, hey, what's my child doing? This looks like something very interesting. Some interesting audiovisual learning that's happening, some interesting revision that is happening, some interesting practice that is happening back at home. And you are able to showcase to the parent what learning is happening in classroom without the parent being in the classroom now. The parent is a lot more connected with what happens in the class. And thirdly, multiple events that the school creates or your curriculum provider provides. For example, we have a national championship which is actually running at this point in time, and we have nearly 2 lakh students across the country participating in it this year. And we have a grand finale happening later this month in Delhi. Multiple things that can happen for exposure of students. Similarly, events that are run by a school or events that are run by your partner provider will actually help you. So all this actually brings the learning and brings the exposure of the child up and front in the parents' eyes. Second, now we can do a lot in terms of learning, but at the end of the day, the delivery of learning is the onus of the teacher, right? And it's very, very important that we have the right teachers teaching the right way. Now, in a lot of cases, like especially many schools which are in tier 1, tier 2 cities, villages, towns, face a challenge in terms of crunch of good quality teachers. So one thing that's very important is how do we scale up every teacher to become comparable with the best teachers in the best of cities and best of schools? So one important element there is how do you enable the teacher to succeed in a fairly standardized, consistent manner? So one way to do it is what we do right now in terms of having fabulous lesson plans, which are built into a tab. It's a tab that the teacher actually holds and is a reference guide for a teacher while teaching. It's a step 1, step 2, step 3. This is how we run a lesson. This is how we explain a certain point. These are the problems that you want to solve. This is certain audiovisual resources that you want to showcase. And all of it is connected. Like you don't have to do any research or any special preparation for it. A 5-10 minute pre-read before the class, and you can go into class and have a fabulous teaching session. And equally important to what the teacher does in the classroom is what is the capability building happening outside the classroom in terms of self-paced learning and also in terms of in-person trainings. So these are some ways in which the lead group through multiple programs helps improve our teachers. And thirdly, many of us as school owners and principals want to have a very good grasp in terms of how each of our students is performing, how each of our teachers are performing, what are the strong areas, what are the weak areas, how do we constantly keep improving. So we have a fabulous ERP program called Nucleus, which enables our teachers, enables our school owners and principals to keep a very close eye in terms of teacher performance and student performance, and a very strong academic ERP system as well overall to track performance. And on top of it, in terms of the ability to customize assessments to the rigor that you want for your school, the duration of assessment, the marks, how easy or tough the paper is, all in your hands, coming from an immense question bank powered by AI. And also, very importantly, your parents are constantly engaged because parents can track the student performance real time. There were a couple of questions about parents not coming to parent-teacher meets. But parents can actually be very, very well engaged even in other means by actually being able to track the student progress very closely at at any point of time they want to. And important communication channel between the school and the parents as well. So multiple ways in which engagements happen and is technology powered. So we have 4 programs that are available, and you're welcome to explore any of these if you're interested. One is our flagship lead program that we have been running now for over a decade. We have Pinnacle Plus and Propel, which we launched last year, which are fabulous integrated systems which work with different kinds of schools and come with their own host of bells and whistles. And we also have our own publishing solution called Pinnacle, which is erstwhile Pearson. I think a lot of us would have used Pearson across the last few decades. So Pearson is now part of the Lead Group family and has been rebranded as Pinnacle. So we invite you to take up any of the programs that you're interested in if you'd like to. And for you to take up any of these, you can reach out to us. We'll share the contact details, etc. there. But before that, I think there's a short question that we want to ask of you.
Yes.
Shalini, over to you.
Yes. So, thank you so much, Deepak, for driving this webinar so far. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot about, how to grow their schools, how to boost admissions, attract the right students, keep parents engaged. In fact, some of the questions helped us understand your concerns and challenges better as well. What we really want to understand is, right now, how confident are you feeling about implementing the 5-step process that Deepak spoke about to drive admissions in your school? Requesting everybody to please vote. We'll display the results shortly, but what I can share with you is that a lot of people are saying quite confident. A lot of people are saying moderately confident. There's a tiny percentage that's, still seeking some help from us. In a short while, we'll let you know how you can reach us. We're happy to answer any of your questions related to your school, related to growth, etc. And I think we can stop the poll now.
All right. So I think we have 41% of respondents saying that they're quite confident after this,
Yeah.
and 33%, very close number, moderately confident, and there are some 26% who still need some more assistance. So
Correct.
very glad to see this and hope this session has been of help to you. I think some of the audience members were asking for how do we get in touch. So just a brief context about Lead Group before we move forward. So I mean, as an organization, we've been around for about 12 years. We are India's largest and fastest growing school at tech. We started off with a mission of making excellent education accessible to every child. So in our 12-year journey, glad to see that we have transitioned to a stage where we are engaging with 3.5 million, that's 35 lakh students across 50,000 plus teachers, across 8,000 plus schools, and across 400 plus cities, towns, and villages. So, and we internally have our own aspiration to grow to 26 million students. That is about 2.6 crore students across 60,000 schools in the next 4 years. So, as I said, the Pearson family is also part of our family, and really happy to engage with you going forward. So, if any of you are interested, you can reach out to us on our. You can reach out to us on the contact details that you see here. You can give us a missed call on this number or visit our website and reach out to us anytime. And if
Right.
any like
We
to
request.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Deepak.
So if any of you would like to get a call back, you can leave your phone number on chat as well, and we will have our team reach out to you and help you forward.
Thanks so much. Thank you, audience, for being with us this evening. We really enjoyed the last 1 hour or so chatting up with you and trying to better understand your aspirations towards growing your schools. Delighted to see how we had schools join in from every nook and corner of India. It's always an interesting experience to meet and interact with our school owners from across the country. We've just in the chat window shared a very tiny link for you to share your feedback with us on how we can make our webinars more engaging, more useful, more informative for you. So if you have any suggestions for example, future topics, Please do share that with us through this survey link on through the feedback link. And also tell us what you liked, what you think we can do better for you. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, and wishing all of you all the best for your fabulous goals. And I think some of you shared it, some of you did not, but I think fabulous growth plans that each of us are lining up for next 4 5 years. So all the very best for that, and we are happy to partner with you on the journey if you'd like. Thank you, and all the best.